Good evening. How you doing? Hope you're well. It's 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, and this is KJ's What Happened. We look back on some of the stranger things I found over the last few weeks. It's usually a fun bit of a mix. So I hope you had a great weekend. Hope you're ready for a great week. And let's just go ahead and get started because there's a lot to get to. Study links fluoridated water during pregnancy to lower IQs. This is pretty huge. The so-called conspiracy theorists are always proven right, right over time. Many of us have known about the danger of fluoridated water for a long time and have talked about it. And now you have it coming out here more in the mainstream. An influential medical journal published a study Monday that links fluoride consumption during pregnancy with lower childhood IQs, a finding that could undermine decades of public health messaging, fire up conspiracy theorists, and alarm mothers-to-be. The research was expected to be so controversial that JAMA Pediatrics included an editor's note saying the decision to publish it was not easy and that it was subjected to additional scrutiny. It's the only editor's note I've ever written, Dimitri Christakis, editor-in-chief of JAMA Pediatrics and a pediatrician, told the Daily Beast. That's a mouthful. It's a long title for that guy. There was concern on the journal's editorial team about how this would play out in the public eye and what the public health implications would be. About 3/4 of the United States drinks fluoridated tap water, which the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention declared one of the 10 greatest public health achievements of the 20th century because it dramatically reduces tooth decay. A handful of earlier studies have suggested that prenatal fluoride exposure could affect neurodevelopment, but many experts considered those to be substandard. The new study, vetted by the premier medical publisher in the U.S., is seen as more rigorous, although some experts found it unconvincing, saying the results were statistically borderline and the methodology was flawed. When we started in this field, we were told that fluoride is safe and effective in pregnancy, said study co-author Christine Thiel. But when we looked for the evidence to suggest that it's safe, we didn't find any studies done on pregnant women. They recruited 512 pregnant women from 6 Canadian cities and measured their exposure several ways, analyzing the amount of fluoride in the urine, looking at how much tap water and tea they drink, and comparing the fluoride concentration in the community drinking water. Then when the women's children were 3 or 4, the researchers gave them IQ tests and crunched the numbers to see if they could find any trends. We saw an association between prenatal fluoride exposure and lower IQ scores in children. Specifically, they found a 1 milligram per liter increase in concentration of fluoride in urine was associated with a 4.5 point decrease in IQ among boys. That's a big leap, though not girls. Another translation, the boys of mothers with the most fluoride in the urine had IQs about 3 points lower than the boys of mothers with the least amount. So although critics of the study pointed to the different results by gender as a red flag, when the researchers measured fluoride exposure by examining the women's fluid intake, they found lower IQs in boys and girls. All right. It's interesting. There you go. Study links fluoridated water during pregnancy to lower IQs. I don't know. I guess this is kind of a fun one. Check this out. I mean, it just goes to show you customer service in general and just having to deal with people out in the jungle outside your home can be tiresome these days.
Security worker is without a job because of a 2-word message she wrote on a piece of paper. Here's security video of the incident in Neil Strasser. Requested it himself. As he passes through a metal detector, the TSA agent hands him a note. Not thinking much about it, Strasser continues to go about boarding his flight when the agent calls back to him. Open it. Strasser read the note, which read, quote, "You ugly."
You never know where somebody is really in their in their day or their head. The more you think about it, the more you come to the conclusion it's easier to smile than do this.
Yeah. Strassner says at the end of the footage, the agent is seen pulling out a pen and a piece of paper, so he does not think he was the only one to get a note. The TSA released a statement saying they investigated the matter after receiving the complaint and fired that employee days later. Rude and that's bad grammar to put.
Ugh, right? Ugh. It's unfortunate. Seaside towns' high-tech anti-sex toilets will spray users with water. The Welsh seaside town of Porthcrawl is planning to install anti-sex public toilets that would spray occupants with water and sound an alarm. Violent movement sensors would automatically open the doors and sound high-pitched alarms, with fine water jets soaking the interior. Weight-sensitive floors would ensure only one user could be in a cubicle at a time to safeguard against inappropriate sexual activity and vandalism. I guess that's a thing. I guess that's apparently a serious issue out there. People meeting up in these public toilets to mess around, I guess. Porthcrawl Town Council is spending $170,000 on the futuristic toilets in Griffin Park. The planning documents detail a range of security features to deter rough sleeping, including an audible warning combined with lights and heating being switched off. All these toilets would be fitted with a full high-pressure floor and wall washer, which could be operated after every use or after a certain number of users per day. Each night, the toilets would close for 10 minutes while the unit undertakes a deep clean. Visitors will have to pay to use these toilets, but the charge has not been decided. Well, they're taking all the fun out of taking a dump, it seems. Anyway, all kidding aside, I guess that's a pretty serious issue out there. I mean, way to keep it classy, right? Yeah, I'll meet you in the crapper. Oh, these roses are for you. Yeah, I'll see you in the dumper in 5. Yeah, I brought these candies for you. Condo owner busted for being John Malkovich like fourth half floor. You ever seen Being John Malkovich? It's a very interesting, inventive, creative movie. And that was part of it. They randomly lived in these super small apartments. There's a seal of Saturn up there. Look at that. The real estate market in New York has never been this tight. A Lower East Side condo owner turned his small apartment into a mini village by converting it into an illegal duplex with 11 subunits that had ceilings as low as 4.5 feet high. The illegal micro apartments at 165 Henry Street are so cramped that the condo owner even put up bubble wrap as protection to keep residents from hitting their heads on the many low-hanging pipes. The bizarre arrangement in the apartment, which was raided and shut down Wednesday night by the city buildings department, was compared to something out of a movie. This is like the room out of the movie Being John Malkovich, said Manhattan councilman, a nod to the 7th half floor. It was funny in fiction, but a horror story in real life. It wasn't clear how much rent Nee was charging for the tiny units, but the residents there were stacked like sardines, as the 11 windowless units were all carved out of the upper areas of Nee's single 634 square foot condo on the building's 4th floor. The condo where 9 people were living also had an illegal bathroom, inspectors said. The tenants were relocated from the nightmarish fire hazard when buildings department inspectors raided the place in response to a 311 complaint. All right, there you have it. So here's one that, I've been looking into these kind of fringe topics for so many years. I've been on YouTube for so long. I sometimes just assume I've seen all of the best weird stuff out there. But luckily, I'm constantly proven wrong because I stumbled upon this one. This is from October 28th, 2013. And I found this in other forums, people talking about, some people consider this some of the newest event, I guess legendary footage, that we have now, that in the future, this is going to be considered really legendary type footage of one of these creatures. I don't know, but I thought it was interesting, so I want to share it with you. It's only a couple minutes long. If you want to come watch it and give this guy a view, it's Josh Highcliffe. And this is his video. Like, he made this channel and put this up, and he explains everything right here. He says it's about 9 miles west of Tunica, Mississippi, on hunting property, his hunting property, about 6 p.m. And there you go. I can read some of this here. He says, I was out hunting hogs, just sitting in part of the swamp. I've heard him before. It's not too far from a road. I was wearing hunting camo and just sitting dead still, waiting for it to get dark, because that's when the hogs come out. I hear a noise behind the tree I was sitting on. I thought it was the hogs. When I turned around, I could not believe my own two eyes. There was this huge black thing crouched by a dead cypress about 50 yards away. And we'll just go ahead and watch it and not explain it all. How's that? This is interesting. So there you go. You have a little bit of backstory. What do you think? I guess it already skipped over to the next video. Let's see. What was that? Let's go back. I don't know. What do you think it could be? I mean, there's, the obvious. Somebody is in a suit. Could be somebody in a suit, maybe. A big suit made out of black hair. A bodysuit made out of black hair. That makes sense. I get it. Maybe it's a stunt, right? Or maybe it's something real. Looks pretty big when it starts to stand up. Right there. Oh, well, never mind. It's starting to play kind of weird. Anyway, I thought I'd share that with you. If you want to go see that again sometime, it's Josh Highcliffe. I think I saw a skunk ape. Please help. Check this out.
It's kind of weird. It's not day.
It is creepy. I've only seen a couple of them, but saw pictures online. It was kind of weird.
It's not something you see every day.
It is creepy. I'm not sure what's up with it.
Dolls
From a distance, it looks like a person.
popping up randomly around Jefferson County.
They're getting pretty good at where they're putting these. I mean, they're putting them where they're going to be seen. There's no doubt about it. This one is at a major intersection.
All the dolls look similar. They look like this, very realistic. And people living in this community say it's not only the dolls that are creepy, but it's where they're placed that's strange.
Well, when we found this one, it was just like laying in the front of our building, and we kind of just were like, what is this? And then we picked it up and it was the doll, and we were like, okay, that's kind of weird. And then they've been like hanging on top of stop signs, randomly laying like in front of like the license office, all kinds of weird stuff.
Festus Chief of Police Tim Lewis says it's all fun and games, but he's worried someone is going to get hurt.
The hands are sewn to the face. There's no face on it. If you were to see that from behind, that looks like a little girl. Hands on his face looks like a little girl crying, holding up against a pole. Somebody's going to stop. In this town, people are good-hearted. People are going to stop and check to make sure that's not a child. And then they're going to either get hit, or there's a chance they get out of the car and they get run over. Then you're dealing with a catastrophe.
Chief Lewis says they don't know where the dolls are coming from or who is putting them there.
Somebody just wants attention, or they think it's funny to put out, and they're giggling as they see people stopping.
Prank or not, Chief Lewis says be aware of your surroundings.
This reminds me of another story. I didn't really bother putting it up. It went mainstream, but you may have seen it, about some guy wearing a mask that's a huge TV screen, and he was just going around to people's homes and dropping off old school, old type TVs on their porches, their front yards. If you guys saw that or not, but there's footage of him from different cameras on people's doorbells, and some guy dressed up, I guess pretty much all in black from what I remember, but he had a mask that was like a screen of a television and dropping off TVs that have nothing modern, you know, those big blocky type TVs from like 10, 15 years ago, putting those in people's yards. It was weird. I don't know. But it went mainstream, and, you know, it's probably somebody's trying to get attention. I don't know. But then I saw this story, and this hadn't really gone mainstream. This is local news, but I thought this was creepier. Somebody's walking around placing these weird dolls all over the place. You never know what it means. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe somebody's just trying to, you know, get a little recognition, you know, make us all wonder about it. You know, or maybe it's a lead up to something else. You know, I don't know. I guess we'll see. We shall see. All right. You know, I've been talking about this subject off and on the show for ever since I first heard about this last year. And it looks like we're getting really close. Virgin Galactic finally reveals spaceport passenger lounge and mission control ahead of the $200,000 a ticket flights next year. So this is for the flat earthers, man. I mean, you know, here we go. And I mean it, you know, I mean, look at next year, like they're really planning on doing this, actually launching this. It's pretty crazy looking. It does look like something out of a movie, right out of the future. Sir Richard Branson has finally unveiled the spaceport that he'll use to fire space tourists into orbit next year. His wacky space venture, Virgin Galactic, plans to charge $200,000 a ticket to launch passengers from the New Mexico port. In a statement today, Virgin Galactic said the world's first specifically designed commercial spaceport is operationally functional. The company, owned by billionaire businessman Branson, announced the transfer of all of its spaceflight operations to the port, dubbed Spaceport America. Virgin Galactic had been carrying out tests flying from Mojave, California, including the first successful launch of its tourism rock plane into space in December last year. Over 6,000 people have already paid $64.2 million of deposits to the company to secure their tickets on the first space flights. Here it comes. It's pretty wild, really. It's expensive. I'm sure the price will come down eventually. I'd do it, wouldn't you? I'd take a ride on one of those things. It'd be pretty cool to see what's out there. There you have it. The firm also revealed the interior of its gateway to space building at the spaceport. The glitzy structure includes 2 floors primarily focused on spaceflight operations and a further floor of communal spaces specifically designed for future customers. So crazy, huh? Just a year away. And, right? I mean, it's just, I'm pretty sure the answer everyone's been waiting on for the flat earth, it'll be there, right? I'm guessing. So there you have it. There's a little map, I guess. 20 kilometers, 50 kilometers, 80 kilometers, and then they're in space, it says. The Kármán line. All right, we'll see what happens. Don't get mad at me. I'm just saying. Pretty sure we'll be getting footage. Someone's going to shoot some footage from up there. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Satanic Temple in Ottawa to hold first public black mass in Canada. The Satanic Temple in Ottawa plans to hold what apparently will be the first public black mass in Canada's history. I guess they already did it, right? August 17th. The black mass is an inversion and mockery of the Catholic mass, where the ritual is performed in reverse from the end to the beginning and symbolizes the undoing of Christ's sacrifice on the cross and the undoing of Satan's defeat. Essentially, it involves using traditional symbols and inverting them. And that's why we see this in the symbols. And a lot of the kind of subjects I cover here on the channel is that inversion, right? Turning it upside down or even backmasking. But inverting them to create a ritual that is meant to be the opposite of the traditional mass. Okay. The event took place at the Coven, a heavy metal restaurant bar with a satanic atmosphere. Okay. Anyway, there you go. Just more mainstreaming of this kind of stuff. Kind of garbage. More mainstreaming of it. Here's probably a good time to bring up my sponsor. Really, the vast majority of porn sites track user data, often without telling you. If you don't use your own VPN, a virtual private network, and it's not just for porn stuff either. I mean, there's one of multiple reasons to stay anonymous online. Look into VPN. That's one of my sponsors, Virtual Shield. There's a link below. Great deal. 30 days, $3.99 a month. You don't have to sign on forever. If you don't like it in the first, you have 4 weeks, you can just bow out. But check it out. You can get past a lot of these trackers they have on all the websites, especially Facebook and the big ones, Twitter. They've all admitted this. They track us. Government tracks us. You have stuff like this. So we're always being tracked. Also, it helps out with identity theft to be anonymous online. So look into a VPN. And there you have it. And probably best just to stay away from the porn anyway, if you can. Ruins marriages. Ruins lives, ruins people's psychological makeup. Police and a B squad and FBI surround Google whistleblower. Google turns the B robots, police dogs, and guns on defiant insider. San Francisco police, its bomb squad, and the FBI surrounded the residence of Google whistleblower Zach Voorhees just hours before he was scheduled to provide evidence to the Justice Department detailing how the tech giant has been manipulating its algorithms to promote anti-Trump agenda and censor conservatives and us, and borderline content on Google and YouTube. Seriously, man. I mean, they've been doing it to my channel forever. Y'all know this, who've been with me for a long time. I mean, I've got 500,000 subscribers, and my videos basically stop at 30,000 views. I'll get some chump change for views they'll let me have every few days after, but just not the same as it used to be back 2015, especially. 2016 is when it really started, a lot of the censorship and the tweaking the algorithm. But it's not being a baby about the views either. But when you create things like these, what I create, and I care so much about it, and I have a passion for it, and I want people to see it. That's what matters the most ultimately, is getting it out there and trying to wake people up, trying to help teach, while learning at the same time. But it's creating that community. But they're purposefully hiding people like myself and many of your other favorite YouTubers as well. Any one of them that are speaking on anything outside of the mainstream narrative, they're going to be tweaked and messed with. And it's just the way it is right now. Voorhees is a former senior Google software engineer who on August 5th was in the process of delivering a Google laptop and internal documents to the Justice Department's antitrust division, but his whistleblowing efforts were stymied by police who stormed his neighborhood and locked down several blocks in an attempt to lure him from his San Francisco residence at the request of Google executives. There's the most important line. That's scary. At the request of the Google executives. What was Voorhees' crime? Google executives told police that Voorhees was suicidal and a potential danger. Voorhees told True Pundit. The tech guru was red flagged by his former employer. According to news reports and witnesses, as well as video clips of the law enforcement operation from local TV news, police closed several blocks surrounding Voorhees' Valencia Street residence. This is what happens when you're a whistleblower, Voorhees said. Voorhees, who said he has proof Google created complex algorithms to hide its political bias within artificial intelligence platforms, discussed the details of his allegations and the bogus raid with True Pundit's Thomas Paine in the video at the top of the story. The video of police detaining Voorhees is included in that video as well. Police also evacuated nearby residents and businesses. Voorhees said the police response included city police and federal agents, including officers armed with rifles surrounding his apartment. Voorhees said Google executives were only interested in recovering their laptop and 950 pages of internal documents and employed law enforcement as a ruse to recover their property. Google contacted police after the high-level computer programmer did not meet Google's deadline to turn over the materials, Voorhees said. Instead, he delivered that evidence to the Justice Department. During the police activity, Voorhees voluntarily emerged from his residence to inform the horde of police that he was being targeted by Google for whistleblowing and assured police he was not suicidal. Meanwhile, bomb robots and police dogs were searching the exterior of his residence. Voorhees shared a video during an interview with True Pundit showing the software guru approaching a half-dozen awaiting police with his arms up. Voorhees was detained by police but not arrested, though the incident paralyzed his neighborhood for close to 4 hours. There you have it. Doesn't pay to be a whistleblower, huh? I'm glad he came out. I'm glad so many of them are coming out. Project Veritas, of course, doing an amazing job giving a platform to so many of these whistleblowers that are really sticking it to Silicon Valley and a lot of their shenanigans, a lot of the games they play with us online. This one, man, I know a lot of you have probably seen this by now, but Jeffrey Epstein had a painting of Bill Clinton wearing a blue dress and red heels, and of course the Red Shoe Club. Look into the Red Shoe Club, connecting with children. Red Hills lounging in the Oval Office inside his Manhattan mansion. Visitor reveals bizarre image inside the lair. I mean, it just doesn't get more obvious than that. All of these people are degenerates. And they all have grease on each other. That's why Epstein was such an amazing honeypot. He held many of the darkest secrets of some of the biggest names in the world in politics and entertainment, leaders of industry, bankers, of course, the Illuminati tied in with all that as well. But the Red Shoes, there we go. All of these guys and gals involved in this kind of behavior really are degenerates. There you go. There you have it.
More than 70,000 people have signed on to a petition.
More than 70,000 people have signed on to a petition that seeks to rename the portion of Fifth Avenue in front of the Trump Tower in Manhattan after former President Obama. The city of Los Angeles recently honored former President Obama by renaming a stretch of the 134 freeway near downtown LA in his honor. We request the New York City Mayor and City Council do the same by renaming a block of Fifth Avenue after the former president, whose many accomplishments include saving our nation from the Great Recession, serving two completely... oh, wow. serving 2 completely scandal-free terms in office. Look at that. I mean, if all you watch is mainstream news, you might believe some of this BS because they treated him like he was Jesus himself, didn't they? Mainstream media worshipped Obama and hid all of his naughty deeds from the masses as best they could. He took out Osama bin Laden, they say. And yeah, okay. Can't read much more of that. Elizabeth Rowan, the organizer behind the petition, told Newsweek in an interview released on Monday the campaign first began as a joke last year. I honestly started it as a joke, she said. I saw a comedian joke about how it would make Trump so mad if it was named after former President Obama, and I thought, why not? Because Orange Man bad. Right? Orange Man bad. However, after the petition began to pick up traction online, Rowan said she decided to reach out to the New York City Council and received responses from some members who were interested in taking action on the cause. If Rowan's petition proves successful, the Manhattan Trump Tower would have a new address, 725 President Barack H. Obama Avenue, New York, New York. There you have it. Joke's on Trump. Joke is on Trump, I guess. Because Orange Man bad. Orange Man bad. Nevada officials draft emergency declaration plan ahead of Storm Area 51 event amid fears things will get ugly when 2 million visitors descend on the remote military base. I guess they're really still planning on doing this? Fearing they could be overwhelmed with visitors, officials in the remote Nevada county that's home to Area 51 military base have drafted an emergency declaration. Lincoln County is home to the once top-secret U.S. Air Force test area known in popular lore as a site for government studies of outer space aliens. And more than 2 million Facebook users have indicated they will descend upon the base on September 20th. Huh. They're still really going to do this. Okay. Officials predict 40,000 people might show up, but that's still enough to stoke concern, as Lincoln County only has around 5,200 residents. We're taking this seriously, Commission Chairman said. With the possibility of 35 to 40,000 people showing up, yes, this is serious. All right, we'll see how this plays out, eh? We'll see how this plays out. Have you paid much attention to this Marianne Williamson? She's running for, she wants to run for president. But the more I've kind of watched some of what she says, I've watched a few of her speaking about some of her books online. You can go on YouTube and watch some of this stuff, but definitely feels Luciferian to me. It feels also just more of the kind of new age one world religion that seems to be that we're just on the cusp of. She seems to be echoing a lot of those points as well. At least when I've tried to pay attention to some of this, because something about her has always seemed a little interesting to me. But Marianne Williamson unveiled her plan for a Department of Peace on Monday that includes a peace academy modeled after the military service academies, a focus on healing-oriented approaches in criminal justice, and wants to study how elements of our food supply affect behavior. I'm not saying all of her ideas are bad either. I mean, as always, the most dangerous deceivers and liars always provide you with some truth. The department, which would have to be created by an act of Congress, would be overseen by the Secretary of Peace, who would serve as a member of the National Security Council and coordinate with other cabinet members. This, of course, is a worldly type peace, right? These will be peace officers, not Holy Spirit driven, not according to anything from the Bible or anything that Christ said or did. Williamson, a spiritual author who has spoken of defeating President Trump with love, has promoted her plan on the campaign trail and in the presidential primary debates. But Monday's unveiling offered details behind her idea. Right now, our national security agenda could be likened to someone who doesn't take care of their diet, doesn't take that much care of exercise, doesn't take care of lifestyle in terms of health, and just waits for when the inevitable sickness arises and hopes that a doctor can eradicate or suppress the symptoms of their sickness, she said. Expertise in peace building is just as sophisticated and important as expertise in military action, she noted. I have great respect for the military. My father fought in World War II. I see the military much like one would look at a surgeon. Obviously, the United States needs to have the best surgeons in the world, but everyone knows you only have surgery if you absolutely must. She doesn't say how much her department will cost, but in a statement on its release noted peace building is both preferable to and less costly than war. The reason I also say it may get into in the article, but she's also big into, you are your own Jesus and we are all God. There's a lot of the stuff I've seen her talk about in other areas, but she notes there are short-term startup costs that will be funded by reallocating existing budgets in more appropriate and coordinated ways to keep, maintain, and create sustainable peace. The spiritual author told the Register she could see using part of the military's budget to get the peace department started. I could see us taking 2% of the national defense budget at any moment, Williamson said. It's a lot of money. It would certainly get things started. For fiscal year 2019, the Defense Department's budget was $693 billion. Am I right? I think it's billion. Williamson noted that peace builders should be on the national security team. They should have a seat at the table. The detailed proposal covers ways to deal with conflict both internationally and domestically, including in schools, and outlines approaches to violence prevention. Her plan detailed, and again, I'm not saying all of her ideas are bad. I'm just saying other things I've seen her talk about feel very much like that new agey religion type talk I've seen in other areas. Her proposed Peace Academy would offer a 4-year concentration in peace education, and graduates will be required to serve 5 years of public service and programs dedicated to domestic or international nonviolent conflict resolution. It reminds me of, and I wonder if she's connected with them, but she may be into some of that weird meditative type practice that David Lynch and Katy Perry are both into. And look into that sometime. I've covered that in some videos in the past. It's not just a basic kind of meditation or spending alone time with God. It goes a little deeper and really is almost a process of letting something else take over. So I don't know, maybe she's connected with them. I haven't really looked that up, but that'd be interesting. Because David Lynch even has a university he's a big member of, or either that he's funded this university where all they do is sit around and just meditate on peace. There's people that meditate. Someone's always meditating at this academy on peace. Groups of people constantly just in meditation, focusing on, peace on earth and good things. Doesn't sound terrible, right? But the more you look into it, it starts getting kind of weird and creepy and kind of mind controlling, it seems to me. Williamson is pushing to make the debate stage for next month's gathering in Houston while she has met the requirement. All right. Here we go. She is. Didn't really get much into the weird stuff with her, did it? But just a little bit about her, I guess. A Peace Academy. An Academy of Peace. Meanwhile, on the other side, Space Command to launch August 29th as Trump's Space Force takes shape. Space Force, huh? President Trump's proposed Space Force is another step closer to taking off, as top brass announced this week that a Space Combatant Command will launch later this month, a key step toward materializing the space-focused branch. Space Command, or SpaceCom, the Defense Department's first new combatant command since 2009, will launch August 29th. I'm excited to see what they do with Space Force. I think it's kind of cool. Why not, right? I don't know how you're going to fight interdimensional demons or fallen angels up there, but hey, why not? Why not a Space Force? Why not? Air Force General John J. Raymond has been tapped to command SpaceCom and its 87 units, which Dunford said will cover missile warning, satellite operations, space control, and space support, according to Defense News. The initiative is going to have a positive impact on our ability to grow the people and capabilities that we're going to need in the future. I'm confident the focus that a single service will bring to bear is going to have a profound difference. They're doing it, man. They are actually creating a space force. Here we go. President Trump first floated the idea of a space force in March 2018 when he told service members at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar in San Diego that he was considering the addition of a, quote, space force. And that made Trump formally announce that his administration was mulling the creation of a Space Force military branch. This past February, he formally directed the Pentagon to create the U.S. Space Force be a part of the Air Force, similar to how the Marine Corps is part of the Department of the Navy. I love it. I think it's great. Why not? Come on, bring on the Space Force. Right? Bring on the Space Force. Why not? Artists criticized Peter Mayer, I'm not sure who that is, for banning drag show featuring Down syndrome performers. That scares me. Ben Klein, as Siren, speaks during a panel discussion the Disability Drag Show at the Grand Rapids Art Museum in Grand Rapids, Michigan on Friday, August 23rd, 2019. Disability Drag Show panel. Okay, let's go back to the story. Speaking at a panel discussion at the Grand Rapids Art Museum, various attendees and members of DisArt, the Grand Rapids-based organization sponsoring the drag show, said Mayer's decision to prohibit the event was based on a misunderstanding, and it amounts to, quote, discrimination. The rights of these 6 performers are being taken away, said Christopher Smith, the co-founder of DisArt. That's discrimination. That's what we call ableism. In an August 19th letter released Thursday by DisArt, Mayer said he objected to the event because of the presence of the London, England-based group Drag Syndrome. The group features drag queens and kings with Down syndrome. Mayer, the grandson of late retail magnate Fred Mayer, said he banned the group because of concerns over exploitation of the vulnerable. He also said he was unsure whether Drag Syndrome's performers, quote, are giving or are in a position to give their full and informed consent. The accusation that I'm discriminating against the disabled is incredibly offensive and highly disingenuous, he said. Mayer said he made the decision to ban Drag Syndrome after speaking with dozens of members of the LGBT community, disability activists, and parents whose children have Down syndrome. He said in his letter that, quote, in nearly every conversation, concerns were raised about the potential exploitation of the vulnerable, unquote. Yeah, I'd say, right? The drag show is expected to feature 3 performers from Drag Syndrome and another 3 local performers with various disabilities, Smith said. He said he expected the event to spark a conversation about disability and drag, but he wasn't counting on Mayer's decision. This is just more, you know, the cuckoos. The cuckoos are running the clinic now. The cuckoos have taken over. Look at that. It's something out of a nightmare. The cuckoos have taken over. Huh. There you have it. There you go. It's that slippery slope. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised. People like myself have been pointing this stuff out for years. Many others out there do it as well. And just goes to show you, the more people accept, the more that they're going to be given. You know, the more we accept things that are trashy and gross and weird and creepy and anti-human, the more we're going to get. You know, the more we let it slide. Like, hey, man, you let it slide. Be cool, bro. No reason to get upset, man. It's cool. It's cool, G. Everyone's got this passive attitude, mostly, and that's why we get more. You know, it just keeps on going downhill. Slippery slope. Even like this new Universal movie portrays 6th graders playing with sex toys. Just more garbage from Seth Rogen, was one of the producers on this, I believe. And he's definitely one of the biggest pushers of filth in Hollywood, Seth Rogen. Some of his stuff is just so foul, disgusting. James Franco, too. He's a creep. But yeah, here we go. This is funny. It's supposed to be funny stuff. In the film's trailer, actor Seth Rogen jokes that the main child actors can't even watch the trailer for their own movie because it, quote, is too messed up for kids your age, unquote. The first scene in the trailer from the actual movie portrays the preteen boys playing with a gimp mask, dildos, and anal beads. All right, classy. Which one of the child actors complains, it smells like shit. Hey, you get it, guys? It's a joke. It's a joke because they're anal beads. So while swearing profusely throughout, the trailer also portrays the boys bringing ecstasy to a playground. So just mixing bigger picture, and I discuss this a lot with things I do throughout the years here, but the bigger picture is, again, that nothing sacred, destroying anything that's innocent or pure. Jeff Epstein had severed cat's head left on Vanity Fair's editor-in-chief Graydon Carter's front lawn after his reporter began investigating the pedophile's actions in 2006. Epstein led a campaign of intimidation against journalists investigating his sordid life, according to a former Vanity Fair reporter who says the magazine's editor-in-chief discovered a cat's head on his lawn in 2006 in what appeared to be a veiled threat. Graydon Carter made the gruesome discovery when a reporter for the magazine began investigating Epstein after authorities compiled accusations against the disgraced financier. On the day the Stringer reporter John Connolly sat down with a woman who had worked for Epstein to be interviewed, Carter found the severed head on his front lawn in what Connolly described as a move, quote, done to intimidate. More of these Epstein stories to come, I'm sure. There'll be lots of stories coming out about Epstein, more and more. Former Vice President Joe Biden posed a shocking hypothetical question to voters at a New Hampshire rally Friday, asking the crowd to imagine what America would be like if Barack Obama had been assassinated. The stark declaration came as part of a meandering soliloquy at the closing of a town hall meeting on the campus of Dartmouth College. The Democratic frontrunner made reference to the formative moments of his college years, most namely the 1968 assassinations of Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King, which just 2 days ago the self-proclaimed gaffe machine recalled to have happened in the late 70s. My senior semester, they were both shot and killed, Biden recalled Friday. Imagine what would have happened if, God forbid, Barack Obama had been assassinated after becoming the de facto nominee. What would have happened in America? However would we have survived? The timing of the rhetorical question seemed all the more bizarre considering it came just hours after the Biden campaign sought to exploit the 76-year-old's links to Obama, commemorating the 11th anniversary of him being selected as his vice president on Twitter. All right, whatever. Such a creep. Joe Biden, just a creep. Weird, too, right? These are the kind of people that get to run for president, I guess. This is the best America's got to offer, right? Really, it's just more evidence of how so much of this is controlled. Our little groups are trying to control it by getting their puppets in there so often. Yeah, it's this the best America's got to offer. That's it. New York ranked the least friendly state in America. Just want to throw that out there. If you're looking to see some friendly faces, you apparently shouldn't head to the Empire State. In a survey conducted by travel website Big 7 Travel, 1.5 million people weighed in on the friendliest states in America. New York ranked dead last. Though Big 7 Travel tried to soften the blow with an explainer, locals might seem a bit gruff at first, even upstate, but it's a melting pot of many cultures, and the neighborhoods in each borough of New York City have a community feel if you manage to stick it out for long enough. It was clear that the majority of Americans do not consider the Big Apple as a nice place to visit. Yeah, I used to live there. I lived in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, for about a year. It's just under a year. Saw a lot of good, saw a lot of bad. I was excited, though. I mean, it's an exciting place. I couldn't have lived there much longer than I did. I moved to LA after that, but It was cool to be there. I'm a kid from the Midwest, from a small town, so New York City was exciting. I met great people. I met some crazy people, and it was interesting. I couldn't imagine living there long term, though. But that's just me. New York Times piece: Yellowstone supervolcano eruption would be catastrophic. Been a lot more news and bits I'm seeing through all the sources I looked through over the last few months talking about Yellowstone. The eruption of a supervolcano beneath Yellowstone National Park would devastate the entire world. Hi, Chubbs, come here. Brian Walsh, an author of the book End Times, wrote that there are 20 supervolcanoes on Earth that represent the greatest threat to human life. The Yellowstone one, he noted, has erupted 3 times in the past 2.1 million years. Not sure how I feel when they start telling us the Earth has been here for millions of years. Is that something that the devil created? Is that part of a deception that there's elements left around that would make you think we've been here for millions of years? Is that just another level to the deception of this world we're in? I wonder. I don't know. I tend to think more that as far as history and how long we've been around, I tend to go more towards Kent Hovind. I don't know if you know who that is, but I like kind of where he's coming from on a lot of that. But that's just me. So there you go. He theorized what would happen should this caldera erupt. First would come increasingly intense earthquakes, a sign that magma beneath Yellowstone was rushing toward the surface. Then magma would burst through the ground in a titanic eruption, discharging the toxic innards of the earth to the air. It would continue for days, burying Yellowstone in lava within 40-mile radius. You've seen that, where is it? Is it Brazil, I believe? I think Brazil's gone completely dark because of a volcano that went off. Is it Brazil? I'm not sure. I may have that story up here. But there's a town, I think it's Brazil, where it's completely dark throughout the day because of all the ash in the sky right now. It's pretty wild. All right, there you go. So people are watching for this potential big one out of Yellowstone. I don't want to start reading it all because it's a bunch of numbers, and we get bored with numbers, right? It's a bunch of numbers, a bunch of big words, a bunch of science stuff. So, okay, we get it. We understand. Incredibly sick, federally funded experiments are happening behind closed doors in secret labs all over America. From Michael Snyder at endoftheamericandream.com. Let me take a quick drink of water here, guys. And we'll continue. It's been about an hour. Hope you're still with us. I can never tell. I'm just focused on the screen here on the news stories and not on the chat. But I hope you're still with us. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying it. I always bring you the best I can find as far as what I think is most interesting and things that I think would be nice to know. We need to know. A lot of this goes missing when it comes to the mainstream type news. So one second. I'm going to take a little drink here. Okay. Ice water. Can't go wrong. Tap water. I'm drinking tap water and I'm pregnant, so I'm a little concerned about... I never drink tap water. I don't know about you. I always usually have a filter, or I'll just go buy some bottled water. But anyway, enough about me. Some of the things that are being done in the name of scientific research are almost too horrifying to talk about, but it's vitally important that we shine a light on these practices because most Americans don't realize what's really going on. Normally, when we talk about crime, the primary focus is on the drug abuse and violence in the urban areas of our major cities. But the truth is that often the worst crimes are committed by, quote, doctors, scientists, and researchers wearing white lab coats. The experiments that I'm about to share with you are incredibly disgusting, and I apologize for this in advance. But the only way that they will stop it is if they are fully exposed. Since these experiments are funded by our tax dollars, the nation as a whole will ultimately be held accountable for the great evil that is taking place. Earlier this year, the Trump administration ended all internal National Institutes of Health experimentation using aborted human fetal tissue. And when that happened, many came to the conclusion that the problem had been solved. Unfortunately, the experiments that were canceled represented only a very small fraction of the federally funded human fetal tissue experimentation that is going on around the nation. The White Coat Waste Project and Pro-Life San Francisco teamed up to investigate, and they just shared what they discovered in a joint op-ed in the Washington Examiner. Our organizations recently analyzed NIH spending data and related scientific publications. Unfortunately, we've discovered that the canceled projects are just the tip of the iceberg. While the administration's June decision ended NIH's internal human fetal tissue experiments and the UCSF contract it funded, it did not halt another 200 projects outside of NIH using human fetal tissue that received a combined $115 million in taxpayer funds from NIH in 2018. $115 million is an enormous amount of money, and a tremendous amount of good could be done with a sum that large. But instead, that money is being used to conduct extremely sick experiments in secret laboratories all over the United States. Here's how it works. First, babies are terminated at abortion clinics and university-affiliated hospitals. The remains of these unwanted children are harvested for research. College professors, eternally hungry for lucrative federal grants, solicit NIH funds earmarked for nightmarish human fetal tissue research on animals. It's big business, which is why it's no surprise that UCSF has openly stated their hostility to any restrictions on fetal tissue research. For instance, at UCSF, the abortion training capital of the U.S., experimenters recently used a $2 million government slush fund to transplant intestines removed from 18 to 24-week-old aborted fetuses onto the backs of 6 to 8-week-old mice. In other bizarre Frankenstein study funded by taxpayers, UCSF implanted intact reproductive tracts from 9.5 to 22-week-old human fetuses, including from a pair of aborted twins, into mice dosed with synthetic estrogen. Before we proceed, let me ask you a question. What do you think a nation that does such things deserves? And nobody in the federal... Yes? Come on over. And nobody in the federal government can claim ignorance because these practices have been debated on Capitol Hill repeatedly. In fact, during a congressional hearing last December, the director of the NIH openly defended these practices. But addressing Congress in December, NIH Director Francis Collins defended the practice. He said there is strong evidence that scientific benefits come from fetal tissue research, which can be done with an ethical framework. They all know what's going on, and yet this funding keeps getting approved on the federal level year after year, no matter which political party is in power. Overseas, the experiments are even more bizarre. For example, over in China, a team of scientists recently made headlines all over the world after they created a hybrid human-monkey embryo. We covered that on the last What Happened show. What is it? Monkey baby? Human monkey baby? Right? It's like it's from a Pepsi commercial or something, and it was a chimera. Something monkey baby. Can't remember what it was called. Human monkey baby? Puppy monkey baby? Anyway. We're talking about Planet of the Apes type stuff, and it's happening right out in the open. And as time goes on, criminals in lab coats will be combining human genetic material with all sorts of different creatures. And I've talked about this in a recent video, Fingerprints of the Fallen Angels, as well. In fact, the Japanese government has now officially approved the creation of rat-human hybrids. So there we have it, man. One-third of tween clothes are sexy, study finds. Okay. Shopping for summer clothes for your little girl. How about Abercrombie Kids? Quote, cute butt sweatpants. Okay. I guess that's a real thing. That's disturbing. Or tween jeans that the retailer describes as, quote, fitted with a little stretch for a sexy look to give you the perfect butt. It's for your children, all right? Because every mother wants her 7-year-old to have a sexy butt, right? A new study examined the websites of 15 retailers and found that 1/3 of the clothes marketed to tween girls are sexualized. We should not be surprised by this. T-shirts with suggestive words, leopard bikinis, and clothes designed to emphasize the legs. Skin-tight skinny jeans or bottom-skimming short shorts are widely marketed at preteen stores such as Justice and Aeropostale, and even at the high-end clothing store Neiman Marcus. Sexualized clothing is clothing that reveals or emphasizes sexual body parts or has a sexual print, says psychology professor Sarah Mernon. Revealing or provocative clothing more suited to Lady Gaga than a middle schooler reinforces the socialization of girls into, quote, a sexually objectified role in which they are increasingly confronted with sexualized material. Yep. Girls who choose more sexualized clothing are more at risk for body image problems and are perceived as less intelligent, the Kenyan researcher suggests. In another study, Mernon and her associates showed 162 college-age subjects 3 pictures of a 5th-grade girl, one in sexualized clothing, one in ambiguously sexualized clothing, and one in childlike clothing. The participants found the girl in sexualized clothing to be less competent, less intelligent, and less moral, says Mernon. The prevalence of skimpy fashions for the tween set represents how girls are being socialized into sexually objectified roles and increasingly confronted with sexualized material. Marketing these sexy clothes to girls is part of the pornification in the culture, she says. It's now normative for women to shave their pubic hair. There's a trickle down to girls, she says. All of this focus on appearance can be backlash against women's progress. Abercrombie Kids and Justice, which is owned by Tween Brands, Inc., did not return calls for comment on the study. All right. Okay, there you go. Again, it really is. I'm telling you, everything's been, we are living in the age of anything goes. You know, everything's been flipped upside down. And it's an attack on anything, quote, normal, or what's been seen as normal for so long. I did that live broadcast a while back. The wanting seed is more relevant now than ever before. You should check that one out sometime. The Wanting Seed is a book by the same guy that wrote A Clockwork Orange, Anthony Daniels. It takes place in the future where everyone's gay, and it's about a couple, one of the few heterosexual couples. It's just very interesting. The whole book, the whole message, and we're living it right now. So anyway, and he wrote that back in like the late 60s, I think. Heterosexuality is just not working, from NBC News. Women are increasingly opting out of heterosexuality because it's, quote, the bedrock of their global oppression, NBC News asserted in a bizarre opinion piece this week. Men need heterosexuality to maintain their societal dominance over women. Women, on the other hand, are increasingly realizing not only that they don't need heterosexuality, but that it's also as often the bedrock of their global oppression. Miss Bianco lumps together a series of recent news stories from Jeffrey Epstein to Dayton and El Paso mass shooters, to Miley Cyrus's separation and Julian Howe's declaration that she's not straight, which she says together have laid bare these strictures of an American patriarchy on the edge of a nervous breakdown. As the status quo, heterosexuality is just not working, she concludes, before explaining just how evil men are and how women are learning to live without them. As a snapshot of 2019 America, these stories present a startling picture. Men continue to coerce, harass, rape, and kill all girls and women and go to extreme lengths to avoid responsibility for their actions, she states. On the other side of the issue, girls and women are challenging heterosexuality and even absconding from it altogether. Patriarchy is at its most potent when oppression doesn't feel like oppression, or when it's packaged in terms of biology, religion, or basic social needs like security, comfort, acceptance, and success, Miss Bianco declares. Heterosexuality offers women all these things as selling points to their consensual subjection, she concludes, in a painful piece of contorted logic that reveals far more about the writer than it does about society and its institutions. Historically, women have been conditioned to believe that heterosexuality is natural or innate, just as they have been conditioned to believe that their main purpose is to make babies. As if they fail to do so, they are condemned as not, quote, real or as bad women, she pronounces. A series of new role models are emerging, she suggests, whose lives and choices, as dysfunctional as they may appear to be to the general public, are teaching women how to take back power from men. Celebrities are not always at the vanguard of feminist thought, but both Julianne Howe and Miley Cyrus have recently spoken out about sexuality in ways that puts their power and responsibility back into their own hands. All right, whatever. I get it. We see where it's all going. Scientists are building a real-life version of the Starship Enterprise's life scanner. When the crew members of the Starship Enterprise pull into orbit around a new planet, one of the first things they do is scan for life forms. Here in the real world, researchers have long been trying to figure out how to unambiguously detect signs of life on distant exoplanets. They are now one step closer to this goal thanks to a new remote sensing technique that relies on a quirk of biochemistry causing light to spiral in a particular direction and produce a fairly unmistakable signal. The method, described in a recent paper published in the journal Astrobiology, could be used aboard space-based observatories and help scientists learn if the universe contains living beings like ourselves. It's cool, huh? Neat. Bring it on. Your new heart could be made in China. Recently, a Chinese startup named Qihan Biotech raised $20 million to develop replacement organs for humans. The smallish deal would hardly have rated a headline except for the fact that the Hangzhou-based gene editing company is aiming to grow those organs in pigs and other animals. If successful, such transplants could well transform medicine. And thanks to a unique confluence of need, money, timing, and culture, China is poised to lead the way in developing them. The history of using animal tissues to replace damaged or diseased human tissues, known as xenotransplantation, dates back at least to 16th century Europe. Science-based efforts gathered momentum in the 19th century, but stalled out as practitioners and patients discovered how strongly the human body rejects foreign organs. Medicine achieved a breakthrough only in the mid-20th century with the advent of immunosuppressing drugs. Xenotransplantation has since become a recognized branch of medicine. Heart valves from pigs, for instance, are commonly used to replace faulty human ones. However, transplanting a complete, functioning animal organ such as a heart presents far more formidable barriers, the most crucial being the need to suppress or fool the human body's immune response. China's scientists have become world leaders in editing the pig genome to do just that. All right. Interesting, eh? Trump admin is considering using Amazon Echo and Apple Watch to determine if citizens should own a gun. What could go wrong? The Trump administration is considering a proposal that would use Google, Amazon, and Apple to collect data on users who exhibit characteristics of mental illness that could lead to violent behavior. And this is so convenient because just a few weeks ago, remember, the FBI came out and said that people who are into conspiracy theorists are domestic terrorists and mentally unwell. And, well, we start to see how these things line up. The proposal is part of an initiative to create HARPA, DARPA, Health Advanced Research Projects Agency, which would be located inside the Health and Human Services Department. The new agency would have a separate budget, and the president would be responsible for appointing its director. HARPA would take after Defense Advanced Research, of course, DARPA. HARPA would take after DARPA, which serves as the research arm for the Pentagon. The idea was first crafted in 2017, but has since gotten a renewed push after mass shootings. Of course, we need to do something about those shootings. Let's surveil the public even more. The Suzanne Wright Foundation, this is all pre-COG, pre-crime stuff, right? The Susan Wright Foundation approached the president recently and proposed the agency include a project called Stopping Aberrant Fatal Events by Helping Overcome Mental Extremes, or Safe Home. Okay, the report notes, citing two people familiar with the matter. President Trump has a close relationship with Bob Wright, who founded the foundation after his wife died of cancer. Wright was a former chair of NBC and occupied that position while the president hosted The Apprentice. HARPA would develop breakthrough technologies with high specificity and sensitivity for early diagnosis of neuropsychiatric violence. Oh boy. According to a copy of the proposal, a multi-modality solution along with real-time data analytics is needed to achieve such an accurate diagnosis. The document lists several technologies that can be employed to help collect information, including Apple Watches. All connected, right? It's all connected. It's how they're going to track people. How they're going to find out who didn't take the mark. including Apple Watches, Amazon Echo, and Google Home. Jeffrey Ling, the lead scientific advisor on HARPA, told reporters Thursday the plan would require enormous amounts of data and scientific rigor. He added, everybody would be a volunteer. We're not inventing new science here. We're analyzing it so we can develop new approaches. The White House declined to provide the Daily Caller News Foundation with a statement, but sources told Washington Post that Trump has reacted very positively to the proposal. Reminds me of, I think it was The Dark Knight, the Batman movie, The Dark Knight, where Bruce Wayne approaches Morgan Freeman's character. I can't remember his name in the movie, but he's got access to all this great technology, and they have a way where they can basically use everything that's connected, like what we're talking about right here, to track down anybody at any time. And they're grappling with the morality of that. You know, should we do this? Is this right? Is it wrong? They eventually do it, and that's how near the end, Batman winds up finding the Joker at one point there. But this reminds me of, and I said Bruce Wayne's buddy Morgan Freeman in the movie. Again, I can't remember the character's name, but he's telling him that, if you do this, I'm out. I'm done. Like, we're not supposed to use this for that kind of a thing. But of course, those are the movies. We see this right here, and this is very similar. It's like using all of these connected devices to really, the spider web's already there, and just use it to track and pay more attention to people. What are they looking at online? This could be danger. This one seems like a conspiracy theorist, perhaps. We know they're not well, so let's go ahead and keep tracking. Let's put an algorithm on them, and let's see what they're looking at, what they're doing. Maybe we need to go pay them a visit. They seem like they could be dangerous. San Francisco board rebrands, quote, convicted felon with justice-involved person, sanitizing other crime lingo as well. Crime-ridden San Francisco has introduced a new sanitized language for criminals, getting rid of words such as offender and addict while changing convicted felon to justice-involved person. It's just that ridiculous, isn't it, though? It's ridiculous. The Board of Supervisors adopted the changes last month, even as the city reels from one of the highest crime rates in the country and staggering inequality, exemplified by pervasive homelessness alongside Silicon Valley wealth. The local officials say the new language will help change people's views about those who commit crimes. Will it? According to the San Francisco Chronicle, from now on, a convicted felon or an offender released from custody will be known as a, quote, formerly incarcerated person, or as a, quote, justice-involved person, or just a returning resident. A juvenile, quote, delinquent will now be called, quote, young person with justice system involvement. Guys, can you believe this is real? I'm not kidding. This is idiocracy. Full-on retardation happening right now. Right? Juvenile delinquent will now also be called, quote, young person impacted by the juvenile justice system. Juvenile delinquent is now young person impacted by the juvenile justice system. Unbelievable, guys. Like when somebody was proposing that we change the term for a woman's private parts, call it front hole. Remember that story? Start calling that the front hole. It's getting ridiculous out there, man. It's crazy. Where's your wife? She's not feeling good. What's wrong with her? I don't know, man. Something's wrong with her front hole. YouTube removing robot fighting videos for animal cruelty. Have you heard about this? It's a crazy one here. This is pretty crazy. It's like the algorithm is protecting the robots. This is my first thought when I saw this. YouTube removing robot fighting videos for animal cruelty. It's not YouTube. It's their algorithm is picking up on this and seeing it as violence. A recent report claims Google-owned video platform YouTube is removing videos of robot fights for animal cruelty. A report from The Independent claims the videos of robot battles are being removed from YouTube over claims of, quote, animal cruelty. The platform has reportedly removed hundreds of videos from popular robot battle events, claiming that they are in breach of the rules of the site surrounding animal cruelty. To be clear, these are videos of remote-controlled mechanical robots constructed by engineers smashing into each other. They are not alive or sentient. YouTuber and robot enthusiast Anthony Murney was one of the first to highlight the issue, who blamed a new algorithm introduced by YouTube to detect instances of animal abuse. Excuse me, one second. There's a new algorithm that's trying to take down robot combat videos, he said in a video on Monday. It's a disgrace. We want to get to YouTube's attention to stop this because it's ridiculous. Several other channels dedicated to robot combat have also produced videos pointing out the issue in an effort to get YouTube to restore the content. Keep tweaking with that algorithm, man. That's what they do. And it's just, right, every week or so, there's a new crazy story coming out about something wrong with the algorithm.
The scrolling.
Sorry, I'm trying to get this started.
Outside Gibbs
Okay.
High School
There you
reads,
go.
see something, say something. That's exactly what one classroom did.
You only get one opportunity to stop these types of events.
St. Pete police arresting 18-year-old Brandon Scott after officers say he became agitated with classmates and told his teacher he was going to, quote, shoot them all up.
We're trying to get to the bottom of it as soon as possible.
Assistant Chief Antonio Gilliam says a search of Scott's bedroom uncovered a Jason Halloween mask, gloves, a bow, and more.
We found certain books related to firearms, things that we found peculiar, but information that led us to believe, had we not intervened, who knows what could have happened.
It's the latest in a string of arrests around the state as students go back to school. In Hillsborough County, a 12-year-old girl was arrested after a post on Snapchat threatening to shoot up her school. A 15-year-old boy from Volusia County was arrested this week for similar threats. In the wake of the Parkland shooting last year, law enforcement isn't taking any chances.
We don't want to go out and just arrest teens, but we also can't take that chance and treating this as if it's just a joke.
It's a sad situation.
As school lets out at Gibbs High School, grandfather Badir El Alamin says it's a harsh reality of today's times.
We have to talk to our kids, and see what's bothering them.
In St. Petersburg, Kimberly Quizon, Fox 13 News.
More of these young people wanting to commit these violent crimes. Copycatting, they say. It's just spreading of the Antichrist spirit is the way I see that. The Matrix 4 officially happening. For those of you who've been waiting, it's coming out according to Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss. So we will see what happens with that. But that's definitely one of those movies that, regardless of who made it or what their original intention was, and it's filled, these Matrix movies are filled with symbolism and deeper meanings, of course. The Wachowskis who made it, I know, they understand the occult and the esoteric. I'm sure they've read a lot of the same books we have. And you see that come out in a lot of their movies. So it'll be interesting to see what The Matrix 4 is all about, but it's one of those that I think is near and dear to many of our hearts, so-called truthers, I guess you could say, because there is a lot of truth in these movies. And the Wachowskis are interesting themselves. Started off as a brothers, and now they've both transitioned to the ladies. So they got that going for them. So we'll see what happens with Matrix Part 4 coming out. Lots of truth, certainly, in that first Matrix. Here's another one, man. I went to dinner with my parents recently, and they didn't even know anything about this Hong Kong. They knew something was happening in Hong Kong, but they didn't realize what's going on here. Hong Kong protesters join hands in 30-mile human chain. I mean, this is happening worldwide. Again, I see this more spiritually, right? One thing Trump was exposed, whether he meant to or not, is, for the masses at least, it's not about right or left anymore. It's about nationalism versus globalism. That's what we're seeing here. And I've been showing you this for years, the rise of the Antichrist spirit. It's becoming very obvious right now. And we're seeing this all around the world. We've seen it with Brexit as well, right? So we're seeing a true battle taking place, a global battle taking place right now on multiple levels. And we're seeing it here where people are wanting to break away from globalist control. The globalists are doing everything they can to gain more control or to keep control. Hong Kong protesters join hands in 30-mile human chain. I thought that was pretty amazing. 30-mile human chain. Here's one of the pictures. You know what's weird is that reminds me of the end of that movie Us, The new movie Us that came out, I guess, a few months back from Jordan Peele. I did a video about that as well, but it's that picture right there kind of reminds me of one of the scenes in that movie. You know what the scene I'm talking about. If you saw it, you see all these people lined up here going over the mountains. Look at that. It's crazy. 30-mile line. There's some. Here we go. They're in a huge battle out there in Hong Kong. I guess this is the new, let me see. Let me show you. There you go. Check that out. Get ready to, I guess, start seeing these kinds of things in our grocery stores. Let's see here. If you visited any grocery store in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, or New Jersey lately and noticed a tall, cartoon-eyed robot slowly following you up and down the aisles, I guess it's asking if you've seen that. Marty the robot is Stop & Shop's newest employee and is causing quite a stir. Since January, about 300 Martys have been introduced to New England stores, each with their own snail pace and pair of giant googly eyes. If you think these robots are there to catch shoplifters, that might be exactly what Stop & Shop wants you to think. The robot's only job is to detect spills or messes and alert human employees to clean up the mess. But people are speculating that its height and giant googly eyes are there to intimidate potential shoplifters. Even the written explanation on the robot isn't exactly clear about its role. This store is monitored by Marty for your safety, the message says, implying an association with danger or theft. Marty is an autonomous robot that uses image capturing technology to report spills, debris, and other potential hazards to store employees to improve your shopping experience. That's Marty. All right. Neat. Kind of. Paging Big Brother in Amazon's bookstore, Orwell gets a rewrite. Orwell, of course, George Orwell, author of 1984. In that sense, is prophetic. We're living in many of the situations he first told us about in 1984. We're living in it now. George Orwell's 1984, the classics of literature are rewritten into newspeak, a revision and reduction of the language meant to make bad thoughts literally unthinkable. It's a beautiful thing, the destruction of words. One true believer exults. Now some of the writer's own words are getting reworked in Amazon's vast virtual bookstore, a place where copyright laws hold remarkably little sway. Orwell's reputation may be secure, but his sentences are not. Over the last few weeks, I got a close-up view of this process when I bought a dozen fake and illegitimate Orwell books from Amazon. Some of them were printed in India, where the writer is in the public domain, and sold to me in the United States, where he is under copyright. Others were straightforward counterfeits, like the edition of his memoir, Down and Out in Paris and London, that was edited for high school students. The author's estate said it did not give permission for the book printed by Amazon's self-publishing subsidiary. Some counterfeiters are going as far as to claim Orwell's classics as their own property, copyrighting them with their own names. What unites all these books is that none of them paid the author anything, which means they could compete with legal Orwell titles as a lower-cost alternative. After all, if you need a copy of Animal Farm or 1984 for school, you're not going to think too much about who published it, because all editions of 1984 are the same, right? Not always, not on Amazon. One reader discovered to his surprise that his new copy of 1984 had passages that were, quote, worded slightly different. Another offered photographic proof that her edition was near gibberish. A third said the word faces was replaced in his copy with feces. Getting Orwell books that skip a chunk of pages seemed to be a routine experience. Even the titles changed. One edition of Animal Farm, a fairy story, referred to itself on the back cover as Animals Farm, a fair story. All right, so we see what's going on here. There you go. There you go. Is the killer clown craze back? It skipped last year, and I think it skipped the last couple of years. 2016, 2015 were the big years for the killer clown craze and phase. It's happening all around the world. You know, I see the spiritual implications there. I made a few videos on that as well at the time. But I guess there's a new clown in town. Let's see. 2 children are living in fear after being chased by a knife-wielding man dressed as a killer clown. Mom Zoe Woodward, 25, says she caught a glimpse of the clown's red wig after her 2 young boys ran into the house screaming in terror on Sunday. They told their mom they were chased by a fully grown man who ran at them with a knife. Frankie, 8, and Stephen, 8, were playing in the garden of a friend's house in Mottingham in southeast London when they were approached by the menacing figure. Mom Zoe from Mottingham says Frankie, who has always been terrified of clowns, is now too scared to leave the house. She said, "My children are even more scared to go outside, and my 8-year-old is too terrified to leave the house. My friend and her daughter walked us home, and to be honest, I'm scared as well." All right. Are they coming back? The killer clowns, the creepy clowns. It Chapter 2's coming here in a few months, so maybe we'll see more of this stuff. I don't know. Dangerous, though. For the horror fanatics out there, there are people that follow me that are into scary and sci-fi type movies. Some of you have asked me questions in the comment sections and even emailed me. If you want to see something truly terrifying, and look, again, hey, this is not for your families, this isn't for the children, just for hardcore fans of scary movies. If you really like the scary, crazy, crazy scary movies, there's one called Terrifier, and I think it might still be on Netflix, and it's the scariest clown movie I've ever seen, hands down. It's brutal, very violent. I was turning my head away from the screen when I had it on the background a few times. It was that crazy. So if you want to see something really, I think really scary, really messed up as far as horror films go, it's Terrifier, just for those horror type fans out there. Then there are other people who get mad when I talk about, "Oh, why are you telling them to watch the devil's movies?" And, it's, again, guys, some of you know my history. I got a history with film school and being into horror films and science fiction. I've got a wide variety of people in the audience. So, I try to speak to you all, I guess, in my own way. Let's check this out. Oh, it's just music. 6 people ranging in age from 62 to 85 face sex charges after being arrested in a conservation area in Connecticut. Police say the 5 men and an 85-year-old woman were involved in lewd and sexual activity in the Grace Richardson Conservation Area in Fairfield earlier this month. Police say the area was being publicized on the internet as an area for people to meet and do adult things to each other. Make their adult parts, feel good. That's what they do. That's what they do. And I guess that's the story. All right. They touch each other's adult parts. 4 people wounded in Los Angeles Skid Row shooting, female suspect at large. I don't know, this one kind of caught me off guard. Kind of a crazy crime. Usually don't hear about mass shooter type ladies. That's one thing you don't see the ladies doing, is going on these shooting sprees so much. Los Angeles, August 22nd, an armed woman opened fire in the Skid Row section of downtown Los Angeles on Thursday, wounding 4 people and triggering a hunt for the suspect. The shooting occurred shortly after noon. Did this during the day, but LA police spokeswoman officer said the circumstances surrounding the violence aren't immediately known. 2 of the 4 victims were female. None of the injuries are life-threatening, so that's good news. Skid Row is an area occupying roughly 50 square blocks in downtown LA, as one of the highest concentrations of homeless people in the United States. There you go. Somebody went out there middle of the day and just shot a bunch of them. There you go. Okay. Not a nice thing to do. Not cool. Not cool. Your brain doesn't recharge if you use your phone on break. Using your phone on break during mentally challenging tasks doesn't allow your brain to recharge effectively and may result in poorer performance, according to new research. For the study, researchers assigned college undergraduates to solve challenging sets of word puzzles. Halfway through, some were allowed to take breaks using their cell phones, others took breaks using paper or a computer, while some took no break at all. Participants who took the phone breaks experienced the highest levels of mental depletion and were among the least capable of solving the puzzles afterwards. Their post-break efficiency and quickness was comparable to those with no break. Their number of word problems solved after the break was slightly better than those who took no break, but worse than all other participants. Participants who took a break on their cell phone took 19% longer to do the rest of the task and solved 22% fewer problems than did those in the other brake conditions combined. So that's interesting to know, huh? Interesting to know. Graphic video shows moment man crushed by elevator at Manhattan Promenade building. I made a big mistake, and I actually watched this. I'm not going to play it for you. If you want to watch it, you can find it. This is from New York Post here. I wouldn't recommend it, though. It's one of those things that you can't unsee. It's brutal. It's brutal. But it's just fascinating because the guy that was coming out of the elevator, you see somebody exit ahead of him, and then he's walking out, just a regular day, just going to walk out of the elevator, probably go get his car or whatever. Go walk around the corner, get a coffee, whatever he's got going on. Just walking out of the elevator, and the elevator kept going down without him noticing. And he was kind of halfway in between the elevator and being outside of it. And you can, imagine what happened to the rest of his body. Like it just got crushed. So anyway, very sad though. Very sad. And just crazy, man, to think that the last few seconds of this guy's life you're seeing, and he just a regular day for him. He's in the elevator about to get off, get his day started, whatever, right? And it just kept on going. It's frightening. But again, I don't want to show it on here. You can go watch it if you want somewhere else. Microsoft contractors listened to Xbox owners in their homes. More of the surveillance stuff, right? Contractors working for Microsoft have listened to audio of Xbox users speaking in their homes in order to improve the console's voice command features. The audio was supposed to be captured following a voice command like Xbox or Hey Cortana, but contractors said the recordings were sometimes triggered and recorded by mistake. I'm not going to read all this. I've covered this last time we had a What Happened show. We covered some of this as well, but it's just more evidence that they're all listening, all these devices. It's a beast system grid. Mysterious pointy and lengthened skulls discovery sheds new light on strange ancient rituals. It's the great debate. Where do you guys fall in on that? Some people say that this is something tribal. Many tribes would wrap their heads and cause them to have these elongated skulls. Of course, other people think this is evidence of the lineage or the bloodline of the fallen ones, the Nephilim. What do you think? The discovery of pointy and lengthened skulls in Croatia is shedding new light on the region's strange ancient rituals. Experts studied 3 skulls excavated from a pit in eastern Croatia. The skeletons were dated to the 5th and 6th centuries BC, were found to be the remains of 3 adolescent males with unusual shapes to their skulls. All right, anyway. They'll give us the official story, but what do you think? What do you think about these elongated skulls? L.A. Marzulli has done a lot of interesting work with these skulls. I think he's done some work with some out there in Peru who were discovered out there, I believe. Check this out. Video appears to show a Tesla driver asleep at the wheel on the I-5. That is crazy, man. It's like something out of the future, isn't it?
Is he? I did look at him. He's totally asleep. This is crazy.
Isn't that wild? Any of you out there own a Tesla? Figured I'd just throw it out there and ask. Any of you out there have a self-driving Tesla? And if you've ever actually used it, like in that kind of a case, just passed out, taking a nap, you put in your coordinates into the car, I guess. Yeah, you have an option to do that, I imagine, and then just say, let's go. That's pretty wild. Another bizarre painting found in Jeffrey Epstein's New Mexico ranch. More of the kitty stuff. It's a little girl with a lion. I'm sure Epstein probably thinks he's the lion, I'm guessing. The little girl. More of the creepy stuff from Epstein. Epstein. Good news here. Cities are saying no to 5G, citing health and aesthetics and FCC bullying. So this is some good news. Jack Tibbetts, a member of the Santa Rosa, California City Council, knew he had a problem. It was early. I'm not going to be able to read the whole thing, but it was early 2018, and he'd started getting calls from constituents at opposite ends of this political spectrum. The common thread, cellular antennas going up next to their homes, causing concerns over property values and health. So that's all they're going to let me read unless I subscribe. But good news, man. That's good news. It's not just us that realize this is dangerous. More and more, we're seeing people step up and speak out, and there's power in numbers. We're seeing people come together over this. So it's good stuff, man. It's not all lost yet. Again, that kind of growing Antichrist spirit, this darkness we're seeing emerge more and more in people. At least 14 people have been arrested this month. It's from 2 days ago for threatening mass shootings. 14 people have been arrested this month for threatening mass shootings. In the wake of the massacres in El Paso, Texas, Dayton, authorities across the country have arrested a number of suspects alleging they're threatening similar types of shootings. So there you go. I guess here's a few of them. On August 1st, on the same day as the Dayton shooting, Hillsborough County deputies arrested Wayne Lee Paget, 31, who allegedly threatened to shoot up a Walmart and told police he was, quote, intrigued by the El Paso and Dayton shootings. There's that creeper. If he really did it. I have no reason to believe he didn't. I don't know. August 7th, federal prosecutors charged Justin Olson, 18, for making threats against law enforcement agents in an online forum called iFunny, where he allegedly posted statements expressing his support for mass shootings. He looks like a little psychopath too, though, doesn't he? Law enforcement discovered 25 guns and roughly 10,000 rounds of ammunition in his home, according to a criminal complaint. Whoa, this little guy was ready to do it. So, are these sleeper cells we're finding? Are they just people who are nuts, who really are copycatting? Are they possessed? Is it a mix of it all? The FBI announced the arrest of Connor Climo, 23, for alleged possession of bomb-making materials after investigators found encrypted conversations he had been having about a potential attack on a Las Vegas synagogue or an LGBTQ bar. August 8th, Dmitry Andreychenko, 20, was arrested for allegedly making a terrorist threat when he walked into a Walmart while armed with a rifle and wearing body armor. Dum-dum. August 10th, Florida police arrested Richard Clayton, 26, after he allegedly posted on Facebook what authorities believed amounted to a threat against a local Walmart. It's all Walmart, right? They all look creepy to me. They all do. They all look like a little off. It's a little weird. Bunch of weird white people. Gosh, I've had it with these white people. August 11th, Palm Beach County deputies arrested Miranda Perez, 22, with charges of sending written threats after she allegedly sent a friend a Facebook message that she was, quote, thinking of doing a school shooting. Okay. She looks like a creep, too. August 15th, police in Norwalk, Connecticut arrested Brandon Wagshall, 22, on counts of illegal possession of large-capacity magazines after he allegedly posted on Facebook an interest in committing a mass shooting. Cuckoo! Cuckoo! August 16th, Volusia County Sheriff's deputies in Florida arrested Tristan Scott Wicks, 25, on charges of making threats to commit a mass shooting. All right, August 16th, sorry. FBI and Indiana State Police arrested Thomas Matthew McVicker for allegedly making credible threats to carry out a mass shooting at a church. August 17th. Police in New Middleton, Ohio, arrested James Reardon, 20, on charges of telecommunications harassment and aggravated menacing after he allegedly posted a video on Instagram that authorities believed amounted to a threat to commit a mass shooting at a Youngstown Jewish family center. Okay. Cuckoo. Cuckoo. August 19th, Department of Justice announced charges against Farhan Sheikh, 19, a Chicago man who in social media post allegedly threatened an attack against a women's reproductive clinic. Okay. August 20th, 35-year-old man Eric Lynn repeatedly expressed an affinity for President Trump, who he said he believed wanted to start a, quote, racial war that would result in the extermination of all non-whites. August 21st, Jacob Cooper, arrested and charged with making a threat to shoot up a Washington, D.C. Planned Parenthood. August 21st, Rodolfo Montoya, a hotel cook at the airport Marriott in Long Beach, who allegedly threatened to shoot up fellow employees and guests at the hotel. And there's your list, guys. But we're seeing more and more of this. These kooks, these cuckoo. Or are they all kooks? Is it part of a program? I always think it's probably a bit of a mix. Climate alarmists foiled no U.S. warming since 2005. Just want to throw that out there. Every day on the news, mainstream, it's always something to do with the climate change, right? Climate change, guys. Got to get involved. It's your fault. This is a pretty weird story, man. Check this out.
Since that afternoon, forensic analysis of much of the evidence has been completed, and today a follow-up interview of Angel Reynosa was scheduled in order to confirm his statement and photograph the state of his injury currently, days after the incident. Today, detectives saw no visible injury to Reynosa's shoulder. During the subsequent interview, Angel Reynosa admitted that he was not shot at from the apartment complex area as he previously claimed. He also told investigators that he had caused the holes in his uniform shirt by cutting it with a knife. There was no sniper, no shots fired, and no gunshot injury sustained to his shoulder. Completely fabricated. Reynosa failed to provide information regarding his motivation for this act. This investigation is ongoing, and when concluded, it will be presented to the district attorney's office for filing consideration.
I don't know if you caught that or not, but Los Angeles Sheriff's Department deputy who was reported shot in Lancaster had actually made up the entire incident. So that's what that's all about. He had 2 holes in his shirt the day he claimed to be shot by a sniper. They found out later he cut those holes in his shirt himself and fabricated this entire story like somebody was shooting at him. 21 years old. Dumb kid, right? Stupid kid. Got yourself at least a well-paying job, I'm sure. Your cop became a cop. Wasn't enough, I guess. He needed more attention. Maybe he's been watching a lot of these action movies with cops. Just needed some attention. Like that Jussie Smollett, just make it up. Create your own reality and just push it on other people and hope it sticks. Magic mushrooms for better health? ? Psychedelic drugs are having a moment across the U.S. Tucker Max tried to drown his childhood sadness in booze and sex. That didn't work, although it netted him a best-selling book and a movie based on his story. As he got older, he tried working out and got fit, but still felt lousy. He also tried business, co-founding publishing house Scribe Media, but his mind still struggled. It wasn't until he turned to MDMA and psilocybin magic mushrooms that he finally found something he believes altered his brain chemistry for the better. After taking a large dose of mushrooms at a spiritual retreat in South America, Max had what he describes as a life-changing mental journey akin to a near-death experience. Like many other mushroom users, Max 43 claims the substance opened his mind to a new way of seeing the world, allowing him to make permanent changes to his brain. Dude, I went to the other side, man. I'm trying to say it like he would. Dude, I went to the other side, man. I went to another universe. I had a whole re-evolution. It was crazy. It was a true ego death, said Max, the Austin-based author of the infamous sex and booze romp book, I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. You realize you're a speck of energy in this massive system. You realize you're completely inconsequential, and that means you can look at yourself objectively. Medical experts say mushrooms can pose a danger to a small number of people with serious mental health issues, especially in large doses. But note, they aren't considered physically dangerous or addictive. Mushroom enthusiasts say any dangers they might pose are far outweighed by the benefits, especially when compared to mainstream medicines like opiates. Among their supporters is Joe Rogan. All right. There you go. What do you think about that, guys? What do you think about some magic mushrooms for your mental health? They've been decriminalized in Colorado. You can go to the store and actually pick some up out there. It's pretty wild, huh? Aw, Doom Break. Gotta have my kitty story. I thought this was a good one. I do love my cat, so check this out.
11 years after he escaped, a little brown tabby cat named Tiger is finally back home with his family.
He was found wandering, seemingly living in plain sight just a few miles from his Hyde Park home. CBS 2's Allie Bellman has more now from Dutchess County.
Tiger's owners say they can finally rest easy now that their family is all together again. It's been 11 years since John and Maggie Wells have seen their kitty. Tiger was only 3 when he escaped their home and ran off.
After months of effort, he was never found, or no information was provided to us about him. So this is crazy after 11 years.
The Wells say they eventually lost hope. That is, until he showed up just a few miles down the road on SPCA employee Carol O'Connell's lawn. For 3 years, O'Connell worked to gain Tiger's trust so he would stop running from her.
We worried about him constantly if we didn't see him. Weeks would go by and we didn't see this cat. So we kind of gave him the name like Spirit because he kind of appeared in, or Ghost.
Finally, Tiger warmed up to her and she was able to scan him for a microchip. That number led him home.
She got me on my cell and started to explain what she had found. And at first, it didn't register at all. And then it dawned on me what she was saying, that Tiger had been found after all this time.
The Wells were in shock, but immediately embraced their long-lost pet. And though Tiger is still getting reacclimated, the Wells say for them, it's like no time has passed. Each night
It's a nice story, right? It's a nice heartwarmer for you. Smart lamp post toppled to ground by Hong Kong demonstrators over Chinese surveillance fears. So once again, another story out of Hong Kong. Man, they're really literally fighting the system right here, you can see. So prayers to the Hong Kong protesters out there. They're really standing up, man, and really pulling together. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. When the people can stand up and fight like that, it's great. Here's a strange one. Dozens who lived in the same neighborhood diagnosed with brain tumors. So immediately we start thinking, what could this be, right? What's in the area? I don't think I've seen a 5G connection in this story yet, but I'm not going to be surprised if in the very near future we start seeing more strange stories like this, perhaps surrounding the 5G towers themselves. Speculating here, but we'll see. Growing up in West Hanover, Nick Squires and his friends thought little of this countless hours they spent playing in the woods and ponds of a 240-acre property where a fireworks manufacturer and other companies are now known to have dumped toxic chemicals for decades. Okay, so they explain what this particular one is. It wasn't until years later that Squires says he realized that spending so much time living alongside land, once considered a surefire candidate for a federal Superfund site, may have made him and others sick. After being diagnosed in 2015 with oligodendroglioma, a rare brain tumor, Squires told the Patriot Ledger he noticed that an alarming number of other young adults who grew up in his neighborhood were fighting and dying from brain tumors. Through social media alone, Squires said he has found at least 35 people who were diagnosed with brain tumors and lived for an extended time within about 2 or 3 miles of the National Fireworks Company, where the crews are now working on unearthing unexploded ordnance buried decades ago. Many of these cases involve people diagnosed as young adults who lived near factory or forage ponds or the Drinkwater River. Isn't that something? Wow. Millie Bobby Brown, it's a little girl from Stranger Things, launching her own beauty brand. This is just one of those, I always see this as one of the elements for like Illuminati celebrity, It seems and I call them an Illuminati celebrity. These are the celebrities we see that are always pushing forth the same symbols, the satanic symbols, the Illuminati symbols, in their products, in their movies, in their TV shows, in their music videos, in their clothing, and their pictures. So this always seems to be a part of that with some of these so-called Illuminati celebrities, as they get their own brands like this, beauty brands, perfume, cologne. So here's the kid. But anyway, of course, in the this is the ad for Florence.
Young person deserves to have a good start with their skin.
I'm going to be vegan, clean, cruelty-free. That would be easy to get and fun to use and still useful, but, playing that sophisticated teenager as well. Well, I want my beauty brand to
And of course, there it is. You just saw the other one.
Is individuality.
They're back to back doing the all-seeing eye symbol.
All I know is that I want you to feel
Another one. So before I even watched it, when I first saw this story, I was expecting it. I was like, I'm sure we're going to see some of the symbolism. And of course, there it is. So there you go. Another young person being used by that Hollywood beast system. I'm sure she'll make a lot of money, but it's going to be interesting to see how they use her in the future, right? For further programming of the people. And that, my friends, is the last story I had of the evening. Let me jump over here and turn my volume down. Now I'm over here in the chat just saying hi to you guys. Hey, thanks again for being here, everybody. I really appreciate you. I want to give a shout out, of course, to those who support my work. YouTube's it's becoming more and more rotten for people like myself. I'm sure you know that. As I mentioned earlier, I got 500,000 subscribers, but I have videos that basically stop around 30,000 views. I'll get a few more as time goes on, but it's just not the same as it used to be. So thank you to the Patreon and PayPal supporters out there. Another way you can support my work, the videos, the shows, the website, everything else, is through my sponsor. And I've got a link below if you're interested in that. In your own virtual private network, it keeps you anonymous online from trackers, people who want to find your identity, and also getting around blocks on different sites and things. So check out the VPN. It's good. Like I said, it's only 30 days, first 30 days free. It's $3.99 a month. Even if you do it, just to click on it, say yes, and then get rid of it within a few days. If you don't like it or whatever, that's fine too. But at least it shows the company there's some interest and it supports the work as well. Okay, enough of all that. Thanks again for the moderators. Y'all did a wonderful job as always. Thanks again to the wonderful crowd out there, guys. Have a wonderful week. Before I go, I like to say a little prayer. Heavenly Father, thanks so much once again for this wonderful community. I see all of us here as friends. I don't see this as it's all my show. I just love having like-minded people. We're all on different pages in a lot of ways, but it's nice to have this community of fairly like-minded people, and we can keep open dialogue here, Father. Thank you for that. Thanks for the protection of my YouTube channel that it's still here and the platforms that you've given me. And just thanks so much for that as well. Also, Lord, please be with all of us in our hearts and minds in these days. Things are really crazy at times. They can get a little tough. They can get a little scary. But, Father, please just bless us all and give us that peace of mind that we all need and really require these days. And on that note, I love you. And in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Guys, thanks again so much for being here. I appreciate y'all. Got another show I'm doing tomorrow afternoon at 2, those dancing devils in the sky. I'm going to show you some interesting footage. My newest video on us living in idiocracy. I've been working on it forever. It should be up. I know it'll be up this week. So in a few days, that'll be ready to go. Otherwise, guys, thanks again as always, man. All right. I hope you had a good night. Have a great week. More work coming up this week from me. And until then, take care. See ya.